This is Mapping Open Data with QGIS. So I'm Ryan Young. I'm the Director of Performance Evaluation and Analytics at the New York State Department of Citywide Administrative Services. That's a lot of syllables. And let's begin. Before we start, to really get the most out of this, it's useful to do the demo while I'm doing the demo. I suggest you download and install QGIS. It's free and an open source. It's a geographic information system, and you can download it from that site. And by the way, I am in the less than 1 year camp. This is a piece of software I learned about fairly recently, and I thought was cool and useful, and the price was right. This is going to be a very basic introduction to using QGIS, and hopefully you'll find it useful. So GIS is computer-based tools used to store, visualize, and analyze and interpret geographic data according to the Centers for Disease Control. The industry leader in GIS is a company called Esri. They make ArcGIS, and they say that GIS is used for a ton of applications in state and local government. Things like housing and homelessness, roads and highways, fire and ES, and even elections. This is a pretty useful tool. And so let's make a map. To do that, we're going to need to download some data from the New York City Open Data Portal. One of the files I'd like you to download is called Borough Boundaries, Water Areas Excluded, and that's the link. The other is Borough Boundaries, Water Areas Included. Can anyone guess the difference between these two data sets? The links will be in the chat. And for each data set, please, what you're going to do is select export, download, and the file format we want is the shapefile. And when that's done, unzip. And I'm going to do that as well on boundaries, for example. And you go to the links and you go to export. And once again, the one you want is shapefile for each of these different data sets. When you download them, it comes in a zip file, and then extract them. I have here. Everyone's downloading these, just some background information. When you download the file and extract it, you'll see there are actually a bunch of different files that you've downloaded. And the reason is that it's a shapefile. So shapefiles are a popular geospatial vector data format that's used in GIS software. It's the de facto standard for storing, exchanging spatial data. And they're widely used for representing various geographical features such as points, lines, and polygons. So the shape files, it's actually files. So there's like multiple files, right? And this table summarizes what some of the files that you extract in the shape file, what they actually mean. It's not essential that you know all this, but just for reference. Kind of the most important one, obviously, is the .shp. That's the actual shape file. That's where the spatial data is. And that's the one we care most about. Before we continue, let's talk about some kind of important concepts in GIS, some fundamentals. The first one is points. If you remember from your middle school geometry classes, points are defined by a set of coordinates. In geography, generally we call these latitude and longitude, but they can be like Cartesian, they could be X and Y, they could be polar coordinates even. So points are singular, well-defined location on the Earth's surface. All right, so next concept is lines. Lines are collections of points or sequences of points. They connect dots together. So boundaries are, some of the boundaries are lines, but generally what boundaries are polygons. They're like shapes because they can take on different forms and things like that. So when you connect lines together, you get a shape. And these are called polygons in GIS. And the last concept I want to talk about are layers. Each of these different data types, points, lines, polygons, they're all stored in a different type of layer. Layers are collections of geographic data. You may have layers that have a bunch of points. You may have layers with collections of lines or collections of polygons. By the way, you can't have more than one data type in a layer. So you can't have a point and a polygon layer. Another way to think of layers is as cross sections. If you're familiar with Photoshop, it's similar to layers in Photoshop. If I was making a map of Manhattan and I had the world's largest razor blade, and I could like only shave off the buildings, that would be a layer. That's a points layer. Underneath that layer would be another layer. It would be like community districts or parks or city council districts or whatever. These are polygon layers. And what's important about layers is that we can stack them on top of each other. The technical term is overlay, like a cake, to form the map that we want. So within our defined area, our map could have multiple layers. And that's what's the fun part about GIS. Now that we've gone through that though, first things first, we want to save our project. If you open up QGIS, this is generally what it looks like. But if you hit the Save Project button, it's the one with the disk. I would recommend you saving immediately and frequently. So QGIS, you have to remember, is an open source product. It's not regularly maintained by a giant corporation with lots of resources. It's a little buggy and it uses some memory. So save often, save early and save often, I guess you could say. When you open up QGIS, generally this is what it looks like. On the left-hand side are the layers. That's called the layers list. That's also the browser panel. You can also browse for the layers that you want. There are toolbars at the top. The biggest screen is the map canvas. That's where you actually see your map being drawn. And at the bottom left is the locator bar. It's like the search function in Windows. You can type in a particular feature or option in QGIS that you want and run it from there. So those are what you will see probably. And let's make our first map. I'm going to go to QGIS. All right. And what we're going to do is we're going to go layer. And you're going to go data source manager. Whenever you want to add a layer, you can add it from the data source manager in layers. And we're going to select vector for now, because this is an introductory class training. And the one that we want, we're going to want the one called borough boundary. So that's the one without the word. And we want to add the shapefile, the .shp. Click add and close. And congratulations, you made your first map. It's a map of the 5 boroughs in New York City. It's not probably not the most interesting map. It's all in this Pepto-Bismol pink color. For me, for you, it might be a different color because I think it's random. We'll jazz it up a little bit. Don't worry. Before we do that, though, you'll notice that in the pink here, now we have I'm going to delete this because I added it twice. In the layers panel here, we have the actual name of the layer here. It's called GeoExport 820 something. Right click on it. It'll give you additional options relating to the layer. So let's do that. So let's right click on the layer and now go to open attribute table. Each layer has a set of attributes like data about that layer. And here we see that associated with this layer are the borough code, the borough name. Each borough, say New York has a borough code, as well as geographic geometry data about each borough. You can do that with any layer that you add. All right, let's jazz up the map a little bit. This Pepto-Bismol pink is burning my eye. What you're gonna do is you're gonna double click on the layer. So that's the GeoExport thing. And you get the layer properties screen. Topology, that's this thing here, the thing with the broom. That's where we tell QGIS what symbol we want to represent our points, our lines, our polygons, whatever we have in the layer. It's also where you tell QGIS what colors you want in the map. The colors here are the symbols. Let's say that we want each borough to be a different color instead of this pink thing. How do we do that? So we're going to select single, where it's a single symbol. We don't want single symbol. What we want is categorized. And by the way, there are other options too. There's also graduated. If you want to make a heat map that showed population density, like darker areas are more populated, that type of thing. You can use graduated, but let's use categorize for now. And for value, that's telling QGIS what we want to categorize. What do we want to make the different colors? And for that, we could do borough code or borough name. It's the same thing in this case. And we're going to hit classify. And it automatically will create a set of different colors for each borough. Bronx will be this light blue, Brooklyn will be this green, Manhattan will be purple, Queens will be this forest green, Staten Island will be fuchsia. There's also all other values. I don't know exactly what that is. So I'm going to unclick that because I don't want it there and then hit apply. Then okay. And that's a little bit better, right? Now we can at least see each of the different boroughs in a different color instead of the Pepto-Bismol pink. Will be even clearer though if we had labels. What do each of these different shapes mean? How do we add that? We're gonna do the same thing again. We're gonna double click on the layer. That's the geo underscore export thing. And go labels. So right now there are no labels, but we want single labels. And you can also change the font. You want to underline, you can do that. You can make it bigger. You can change the color. Let's just apply and see what it looks like. That looks okay, but let's see if we can make it bolder, be easier to see. Change the style, apply. That's a little bit better. That's okay. Save, and this is okay. This isn't bad. What's missing though? What else can we potentially add? We could add community lines. There is a data set with that. Yeah. We downloaded this other data set, remember? With the one with the water, right? To me, it feels weird that there's a map of New York City and there is no water around, you know. There should be the Hudson River, there should be the East River, there should be the Atlantic Ocean. Let's add the water. So we're going to add in that other layer. So that layer, so to do that, we're going to go back to Data Source Manager. And this time, so go back to vector. And this time we're going to open up that one with the water areas included. And once again, we're going to select the shapefile. Hit add and close. And whoa, everything is one color again. After we did all that work to make them different colors. Anyone theorize why everything's a single color again? Did we do something wrong here? That's right. Yeah, I think everyone got it. So we've overlaid the map of the with the water on top of our previous map, the one without water, and the one with water is now covering that map, so you can't see it. It's got the same boundaries because it's still New York City. We can do that though. We can fix that though. So before we fix it though, it might be helpful to rename these layers. Geo underscore export is probably not the most interesting title and it doesn't intuitively tell me what these things are. So I'm going to rename these. So right click on it and go to rename layer. And I'm going to call this one borough boundaries with water. And this one here, the old one, going to rename that. This one is borough boundaries with water, without water, sorry. And we're going to move the old layer on top now. We're going to overlay it over the one with water. And you can do that by selecting it and dragging it to the top. And we have brought back our beautiful map with the different colors of each borough, which is fun. One problem though, oh, by the way, before that problem though, can anyone tell me what there's now this additional gray part here. Anyone tell me what that gray part is? That's right. Yeah, it's the water. Water should not be gray. That's not generally how you want a map to look like. So let's fix that. So once again, we're going to double click on the layer. That's the one with water. And go back to symbology. And the fill, just keep it a simple fill. That's fine. But change it to a blue color. That's better. And now we have blue water, which is generally the color we associate with water. I'm not liking the blue for Bronx now because it's almost the same color as the water. Let's fix that. Double click on the Bronx, that category. and you can change it to a different color. We have purple, we have pink. Let's make that red. What colors do you associate with the Bronx? Yeah, that's okay. So now we have our map of the city of New York, all the different boroughs, and it has border in it too. This is great. We've made this beautiful map here. Yeah, there's also you can also add streets to this on the open data portal. Let me show you here. Here, there is something called the digital city map. It's a shapefile. If you see the visualization here, it's complicated. There are lots of streets in New York City that you could do that on your own time. In the interest of time, I'm going to show you like a little cheat, an easier way to do that, to map the streets. What we can do is we can add a base map. Base maps are also known as reference maps. They're like a starting point for depicting spatial data. So they can show geographic, cultural, and topographic features. With base maps, a lot of the work has been done with you, done for you. Let me show you how to do that. To add a base map, you have to use plugins. Plugins, so select plugins, and then manage install plugins. I've already installed it, but you haven't, I would think. So the plugin I want is Quick Map Services. This one here, and click on it and install it. So after you install Quick Map Services, you'll get this new toolbar here. I actually can't see it. Yes, there it is. This is the ones with the globes. And hit the globe with the plus. And then select OSM and then OSM standard. And it's a map with streets and highways and roads and things. It's got water too. Like I said, it's useful because you don't have to do it yourself. It's already been done for you. There are other plugins too, like Google Maps has one, but this one's my favorite. We have this base map now. We don't probably need the water anymore from our old map. So let's remove that. Let's just unclick it. The one with water. And what else? The borough boundaries without water. We want to see the roads, and right now it's covered by it's not covering the base map. Let's drag the base map to the top and see what happens. Now we have just the labels, but not filled in. Let's say you actually wanted the boundaries though. Let's move this back to the top. Click, or move this down. Let's do that. That's probably easier. There you go. We're going to double click on the borough boundaries layer. Again, the one without water. This time though, we're going to change our symbol to single symbol. We don't want the category. And we're going to change this from simple fill. We don't want to fill. We want do simple line. And let's apply. And you get the boundaries of the boroughs there still. I don't like this black so much. Let's see, can I make this gray? And maybe make it a little thicker. Change the stroke width. Yeah, that's okay. So now we have overlaid the borough boundaries on top of this base map. One of the great things about New York City Open Data is that each data set with addresses is automatically geocoded for you, which is super, super useful and also saves you a ton of money. I'm going to show you how to use some of that geocoded information on QGIS now using one of the data sets that DCAS produces. The data set in question is this one here called Suitability of City-Owned and Leased Property for Urban Agriculture. It's a lot of syllables. LL48, let's call it for short. And Lori will put it in the chat, but the link is there. And what I want you to do is go to that link and download it, but download it as a CSV this time. So hit export and then export as a CSV. So this LL48 is a data set that Real Estate Services, which is a line of service which within DCAS maintains and publishes to comply with LL48. It's put together with Parks, EDC, and the Mayor's Office of Environmental Remediation. One of the things DCAS does is it oversees over 13,000 parcels of city-owned and leased property. DCAS produces this data set on parcels, lots, that are deemed potentially suitable for urban agriculture. In New York City, there are over 500 community gardens in New York City in the Green Thumb program, where communities can grow their own fruits and vegetables. And each row in a data set is a property. So I'm going to assume you finished downloading it. I'm going to go back to QGIS now. And this time we're going to go back to layer, go back to data source manager. And this time we're going to select delimited text and open up the file that we just downloaded, the suitability of city-owned and leased property, that one. This is how you add points from the open data set to your maps. And like I said, any data set on open data that has addresses will also have latitude and longitude automatically in the New York City Open Data Portal, which is great. Because they're called longitude and latitude, you don't actually have to change those fields. One thing that you should be aware of, though, is this: you have to select geometry CRS thing. You may have to select that, and I'll tell you what that is. That has to do with projections. For most people in the world, understand that the world is round. It's a sphere. Technically, it's an oblate spheroid, in case you're wondering. It's got some love handles, but whatever, it's close enough. And when you take something that's round and has 3 dimensions and try to make it flat, you create distortions. And there are different systems for how to represent those different distortions. Generally, the default in QGIS is called WGS84, and each of these different systems are called coordinate reference systems. They have their own pluses and minuses. Generally, WGS84 is like the industry standard. It's fine. If you wanted a more accurate CRS, you can select, for New York City metropolitan area, you can select the New York State Plain Long Island Zone. That's the code there. I think this is the one city planning uses. If there's anyone from TCP wants to confirm or not, please let me know. Please post in the chat. But 84 is fine. So select 84, the WGS 84, and then hit add. Close, and whoa, lots of dots. This is not very useful, probably, right? Right now, it's hard to figure out what is what. And let's make this kind of clearer. So we just added this new layer. It's here. Let's double click on that. And let's change it to categorize. Let's make each point a different color based on a specific category. And the one I'm going to choose is potential urban agriculture. And I'm lazy. We can do random colors to classify. And we have a bunch of different categories. And we don't probably need all these categories. Existing, we should probably know where those are. Not suitable is useful. Potentially suitable is useful. Pending is useful. But we probably don't need this gradation in terms of not suitable and potentially suitable. What we can do is we can select all these different not suitables, right click, and select merge categories. And then double click on the legend and call this not suitable. Let's do the same thing for potentially suitable. Right click, select all of them, right click, merge the categories together, and let's call this potentially suitable. I don't want all letters again. I'm not sure what that is exactly, and hit apply. That's a little bit better. So not suitables are the red color. Existing is green, which is good. That makes sense. Pending is blue. You can also change the colors manually. And potentially suitable will be this light blue. Let's hit OK. Go back here. There are a lot of not suitables because lots of lots are not suitable for urban agriculture. That's probably overpowering the map. So I'm going to unclick that to get rid of those and see if we have a little bit more information. All right, so now we have pending in blue, light blue, the kind of green is existing, and this lighter blue, the potentially suitable, is hard to see. Let's make that a different color. Potentially suitable, let's say yellow. All right, great. All right, so now that we've made this map, what are some conclusions that we can draw about the locations potentially and about the suitability of these parcels for urban agriculture? What are some trends that you're seeing? Some correlations? And I see Matt said that the state plane is used for most of their data sets. Thanks, Matt. But some are also in 84. They're in similar communities to those experiencing high food insecurity. That's right. They're clustered. There are very few sites in Queens. You're right. That is odd. What else can we? Where else are there few sites? Staten Island. That's right. Yeah. There are lots in the South Bronx. It looks like in Upper Manhattan. There's a cluster in Brooklyn, but Queens and Staten Island, not many community gardens. Do these correlate to low income neighborhoods? That's a good question. Let's see here. Let's zoom in. Let's look at the ones in the Bronx here. You can actually zoom in. And there's a cluster here in Melrose, it looks like. So there are a bunch of them there. Let's look at this Brooklyn cluster here. This is East New York, I believe. So that might be part of it too. So that's a good observation. By the way, if you want to zoom out, you could just right click on suitability and go zoom to later. All right, so let me ask the group again another question. If you wanted to, where would you put your next community garden? So remember, those are the ones that are potentially suitable, the yellow ones. If you have to pick a place, where's a good place to put your community garden if you were in charge of this process? Staten Island, one person said. Okay. Where else would be a good place? Any other place? Maybe some in Queens here. Maybe find the food deserts. That's a good idea. Get a map of the food deserts and overlay that. And overlay the urban agriculture, the data set on top of that. That's a great idea. But let's say Staten Island does not have that many community gardens. And this one, there's no pending one, there's no existing one anywhere near it. So this kind of lonely one here. Let's zoom in, let's figure out where that is. I do that, by the way, scrolling on my mouse. I have to admit, my knowledge of Staten Island geography is a bit lacking, so I don't know exactly where this is. It's on Forest Hill Road. It looks like it's next to a park, Travis Avenue. If anyone is more familiar with Staten Island geography, tell me where that is. I would be in your debt. But since Island has so few and there are not that many that near, that's a good place. Maybe this one here. Staten Island has something called designated open spaces. Maybe some of those could be potential sites. That's good. That's a good idea. All right. Let's say this map that we just spent all this time making, this beautiful map, we want to print it and hang it on our wall, frame it. We want to share it with others. How do we do that? So what we're going to do is we're going to click on project now, and we're going to new print layout. So you're going to say create print layout. We're going to call this suitability city owned and leased property for urban agriculture. And that was L11. We'll select all that. Copy that, by the way. You'll see why. And then okay. You will be created by a blank page. To add your map, you'll have to add your map, which you can do by selecting the scroll icon thing here. And we're going to draw it over this white paper. And it'll render, and there's every map needs a title. And to do that, we're going to select the T button here and draw a box over Jersey because Jersey, and double click there. And to change the text, you have to go to label here on the right-hand side. And we'll call it suitability of city-owned and leased property for urban agriculture. You can change the fonts. You can make it bigger so it's more readable. Let's see here, what else we can do? Margin, I don't want frame. No, I don't want frame. Yeah, that's okay. All right. So every map can also needs a legend. So we can also add a legend. To add a legend, we hit the this traffic light looking button here. And I'm going to drag that over the Atlantic Ocean because that's not exactly what we're interested in. And on the right-hand side, item properties, the different layers show up automatically. And we didn't have the one with water. We removed that. And we don't have all these different categories either. Let's fix that. What we're going to do now then is deselect auto update because that's where the layers came from now. And you'll see pluses and minuses here. Let's remove not suitable. We don't have that. Remove this other all else. We don't have borough boundary about water. I want to keep that OSM standard just to tell you what the base map is. And we do have borough boundaries. We can keep that. And the title of the legend should not be suitability. So let's double click on that and let's just call it legend. All right, let's remove this. Let's resize this, I mean. If you had Adobe Illustrator, you got a license for that, which I don't, you can also make a better looking map than this, but this will do for our sakes. So let's go back to this thing here. So it's a little bit more readable. Click on fonts. I don't know, let's make it bold. Let's change the font. I don't like this font here. Let's use this. I like this Open Sans semi-bold. That open? Or maybe extra bold. Let's do extra bold. That looks okay. Okay. And last thing is to export it. You can export it as an SVG or a PDF. Let's do it for a PDF. And this here, save as that. Click save. It will export. It was successful. Let's see what it looks like. Hey, not bad. Not bad for less than 1 hour. And the price was right. I'm going to skip a few things. I'm running out of time and take any questions that you may have.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, we have a couple questions. So this is earlier, Aura was asking, what's the primary difference between QGIS and ArcGIS? Are they fairly the same, similar?
ArcGIS is very expensive and QGIS is not. Is one difference. ArcGIS is a big corporation, it's Esri. And so the program is very stable. It is regularly updated and maintained. There is tech support. With QGIS, because it is open source, you have to go search on the internet, find a community of people to help you.
Okay. I have another question from Emily. Can the layers properties be saved to the map data and share with other QGIS users?
Absolutely. Let me show you how to do that. Share screen. So this one here, let's say we wanted to export to share that, you go to export here and say vector label as, and that will be how you can do that.
Yeah, it's a fascinating presentation. I think while I was trying to follow along, I think I missed two things. One is once you install a plugin, how do you show it on the map? And I was not able to do it. And the other is how I got the CSV data into the map. I think I missed those two when he showed me. If you can show it again quickly.
Sure. CSV. So go to layer, data source manager, and at this time you want to eliminate text. And then open up the file and you can add it there.
Okay. So right click the layer and then data source manager? Is that what it is?
No, just select the layer. Just select where it says layer in the menu. And then data source manager. And then to eliminate that.
Oh. And the plugin, once you install the plugin, it still doesn't show.
So you installed the plugin. Do you get this toolbar?
Where is the toolbar?
It should show it automatically. It's this one with globes.
Okay. Yeah, I have installed the Quick Map plugin, but I don't know where to find the toolbar. I don't know where your mouse is.
So it's got 3 globes. It says Quick Map Services. That's where you add it there.
Oh, okay. And then you just right click that. Okay.
Then you click that, yeah.
Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Che?
And then the last question from Stephen. GIS data has been created using non-project coordinated system such as WG84. Usually renders map of the New York City area as looking somewhat flattened. In ArcGIS, I would easily change the property of the layout window to something like New York State Plain LINAD 83. How will you change the view in QGIS to use a projected coordinated system?
Go project and then properties. And then you would search for New York law. I have it already. You can search for 6539 and hit OK. And that's all you do.
Okay, thank you.
I think we're at the end now, right?
Yep.
This is my contact information. Wanted to share your maps or get in touch. And last thing, thank you for attending.
Yep, thank you, Ryan and Laurie, for your work to put these sessions together. Thank you, everyone, for joining.